I'm Sandy Schreck for LBR Educates, and today we're going to be transforming this birch planter into a great arrangement that embraces the Sunset Whimsy colored palette. And so you can see that it goes from the very popular butter yellows, adding in some sage elements, and then going into some tones of the coral and peaches, and then popping that all is going to be some of the blue shades. So it's a great joyful palette that we put together, and we're going to start off with I'm using the renewal foam from Smithers Oasis. That's a plant-based foam, and so that's going to work as a great mechanic on this. And we're going to start off with just taking this nest. I've pierced it with a Dixon pin, and then just going to add a little bit of moss in there to cover my Dixon pin, but that's going to give me an area of negative space through the center. Then I'm going to come in and create a spiral pattern with some of these birch branches, and this right here is going to help to kind of increase my perceived value on this piece, because a piece is as big as the visual weight that it has. And so you can see, just using some of these birch tips here, how I can really increase the size of this, and using that negative space through the center that comes with that bird's nest, we're able to really generate a lot of look for this composition. So I'm going to reinforce that with the eucalyptus here, and have this work in more of a draping pattern as well. So we're going to come in and have that kind of extend down over the edge. You can see here I cut off the tip, and then I'm going to come in and leave that on that main stem, and I'm going to come in and just plan on that tip, or cut off tip will get covered when I do my floral insertions. And so we're just going to come in and reinforce that draping look that we created with the birch. And then we're going to come in and just do kind of a collar, a low collar of florals on this piece. So we have that butter yellow rose, and this rose is candlelight. And so we're going to come in and just create like a stronger focal here. I'm going to put a couple together over here, and then just to balance it off on the other side, I'm going to come in just with one of those. And then I have the butter yellow stock, and so you can see I'm going to do a similar kind of thing, but I'm going to do two out this side and one out the other. And by doing that, even in with circular arrangement, I'm able to create some lines that your eye moves throughout the composition on it. So doing a nice deep insertion, but you can see just with that coloration how your eye moves throughout that composition. And then we'll come in here, we're gonna cut up this hydrangea and put a couple of these side shoots just in down deep. And I'm making sure that I'm getting a good insertion in that into the foam. And so I'm just coming in and I'm walking my fingers up that stem to make sure that I get it in nice and deep. And so now you can see where I'm doing those two blue that are coming together there, just using a couple pieces of that, and then coming into this coral tone. And so I'm going to reinforce this and kind of do a similar kind of thing where I've got this coming from one side to the other as well. So you can see how that continues to create that visual interest. And you know, they pinch the spray roses, and I always tend to cut off that little pinch in there. And then we have some of these gerbs that are in this two-tone here. And so we're able to get those extended out. And I'm making sure that I get a nice deep insertion on that I'm going all the way down into the base of the foam on here so that they do last for me. So next we're going to come in and just add some additional blues into it. And so we have some of the blue eryngium and some of the spray delphinium. So I'm going to come in and on the spray delphinium, layer those in so that I get a little bit more impact. And we're going to follow our blue line that we've got there and reinforce it. So we can keep some of these side shoots and have those be their own insertion. Can layer those together. All right, and then just come in with some of this eryngium. So it just really gives us that great blue color, and also it's one of those things that draws customers in because they just want to touch it. So we're kind of losing our nest here a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit less moss to cover that Dixon pin, so that it still looks like a nest in there. You could definitely add a bird to reinforce that you've got a nest in there. But you can see how that contrasting color comes in. And then we have a little bit of filler to come in with. So I've got some yellow limonium, and I'm going to layer a couple pieces together and have it come in more groupings versus being scattered throughout the whole composition. And so this will give me a little bit more impact, adds a little bit softer texture into the composition, and we're able to just pull your eye kind of back and forth on that. So lastly, just want to think about taking a look at where I don't have as much draping. And so that's where I'm going to come in. I saved the seeded eucalyptus rather than put it in early. I just want to look like here, my composition's a little bit higher. So I want to add a draping element to kind of come down a little bit lower on it. And so we'll just cut this up and come back in. So here I'm going to get my head down to the side and take a look at areas that might need that extra draping and textural element that kind of helps tie everything together. And rather than use the seeded eucalyptus early where it might disappear, so it's a little bit more of an expensive green, so I want it to make sure that it's visual and able to be seen. So this takes our Sunset Whimsy, and you can see how just doing some of that creative placement, you still, in a round arrangement, have visual lines that go out throughout the composition so that your eye travels throughout that composition, and adding that extended value and increased perceived value of the branches that really extend this design. I'm Sandy Schreck for LBR Educates, and I hope I've inspired you to create some fabulous florals.